This is a 102.7 FM Toowoomba original podcast.
Welcome everybody to my podcast, Big Little Small Talk. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan and I love to talk, but I also love to listen. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to Big Little Small Talk. My name's Megan O'Hara-Sullivan. You're on 102.7 FM and we're with Maud Bagnall, who is a woman of many talents, and many of you will know her from community organisations, but welcome to Big Little Small Talk, Maud.
Thank you.
Maud, where were you born?
In France,
Right.
in the east part of France.
And what's your migrant story of how you ended up in Toowoomba?
Well, I grew up with my grandparents and their dreams was to actually come to Australia. So they often talked about Australia. They never went there, but that was our dreams. So when I was 29, I thought I had finished studies and I was working in Paris. I sort of had achieved what I wanted to achieve. I just wanted to do something else. So I just decided to go to Australia. So I came as a backpacker.
Why do you think that it was your grandparents' dream? Why Australia? What did they know about it?
Well, I feel that for them, there was like this new countries with lots of opportunities. And I don't know, for them, that was just a dream. And they knew about Ayers Rock, and I don't know why, Uluru, and they also wanted to see it. They might also liked the indigenous story as well, with a very old, lasting culture in a way, and that was very different from what we saw in Europe. So they sometimes mentioned it, but I don't know if it was the reason why they wanted to come here.
What part of France were they living in that you were living in with them?
So sometime we lived in the east part of France and sometime in the south.
Was it like a rural setting or a city, and what did they do, your grandparents?
So they were both in the Maquis. Yeah, I don't know if in the like underground army during the Second World War.
Right.
And so my grandfather had they wanted to stop a train or something like that, and it was some snow, and he had to hide in the snow from the Germans, and he got frozen, so his leg got frozen, so he was not really able to walk very well. His speech was not he was not able to speak very well neither, because some part got frozen as well. So they were both looking after a high school, not a high school. It was like we call that école normale. So I don't know. It's a place where they form teachers. So we were looking after the school or the university in a way.
Was it just you living with your grandparents, or did you have any other young people living there as well?
So I have a little bit of a complicated childhood, but after a while, we got my brother as well. Yeah. So it was just my two grandparents, me and my brother.
Right. What was that experience like growing up with your grandparents, if you wanted to talk
And
about it?
that was just wonderful.
Normal, yeah.
They were they taught me, I think, very good values, and I think that's what I kept with me.
What age did you start to go and live with them?
I think I was 1 month.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right. That was all you knew. And were you conscious, did you go to the same primary school all the way through primary school and all the way through high school?
We moved a little bit, yeah.
And were you conscious of the fact that you were being cared for by your grandparents rather than your parents? Was there any talk at school about the older grandparents?
Not really. I just didn't really care, and I actually called my grandmother mom. So I was not really I was happy with my life, I guess, and I was not really thinking about parents anywhere else. So my mom had schizophrenia, and so she had to stay in a mental health institute all the time. almost all the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes my dad was taking her with him, but it was too much to look after us, plus my mom.
Right.
Yeah.
So your mother and your father were always still together.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Apart from the time when she was away, perhaps
Yeah.
institutionalized. Yeah. And your brother, was he a product of that union as well?
Yeah, and he was born in the like while my mom was at the mental institute.
Right.
Yeah.
Were they your grandparents? Were they your mother's mum and dad?
My father.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mom and dad.
And did you tell me a story once about going out and gathering berries with Essia? Tell me that
Yeah.
story again.
Oh well, so we were living in a little village. Must have told you something. We were living in a little village in the east part of France, not too far from Germany. That's where I mostly grew up. Sometimes we liked picking berries. We picked a lot of things around us. My grandmother knew very well the plants. So, I sort of miss not knowing that as much here. And I quite enjoy knowing what we could eat, you know? And so, yeah, we were picking berries many times, but we had to be careful to not pick the berries too low because we have the fox, have the rage, we say in French, which is in English. This disease. Do you know the name in English?
Not sure, no, the disease, but it's from the foxes, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful because if they pee on those berries, you can get it. I think it's rabies. Rabies?
Oh, I'm not
In
sure. I
English?
thought you got rabies from dogs biting you, but I don't really know.
Yeah, that's
So, but
rabies.
because you were eating sort of poisonous berries, it was
No.
more because of this.
Yeah, so you could not
Yeah.
pick the one who were too low.
Yes.
And we knew the berries anyway. We knew which berries we.
Why did your grandmother have that knowledge? Was that taught to her by her family?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's and she knew what also we were sometime going to pick certain plants and to make a salad or something, and she knew how to cook them, and it was really good.
What's your earliest memory from your childhood with your grandparents? Is it one of cold or
Yeah.
or warmth or comfort or
Uh, my earlier memories. Actually, we were in this place where they form teachers. I just remember where I was, where my room was, and I remember my grandfather having an office there. I just remember the place, and I especially remember when we had a storm, I was allowed to take my grandfather's chair, and I was allowed to go in front of the porch. We had a small porch and watch the storm. And I had a little blanket and everything, and I was like, this very special thing that you could do.
and they were overwhelmingly affectionate to you, your grandparents.
Yeah,
They
they were.
really showered you with love and yeah,
Yeah, especially my grandmother. She was
beautiful.
really,
Yeah. And you can't remember, Maud, what it was, what the conversation was. Did they sort of say, "Oh, that place Australia," or "I've seen something in a magazine or a movie about Australia or indigenous Australia"?
No, I don't remember watching a movie. I just I just know that that must have come up a lot in conversations because I knew about indigenous here. I knew about Ayers Rock. I knew, of course, about kangaroos and koalas, but this was something that I grew up with, knowing that. So I don't exactly remember the conversations, but I know that they wanted to go there, and a few times everyone did their passport to go there, but they also had some health issues, both of them, so we didn't end up being able to go.
To go
Yeah.
together. Did you, after you immigrated to Australia, did they ever get to come out and see you here?
They passed away when my grandmother passed away when I was 9, and my grandfather when I was, I think, 13.
Right. And what happened, Maud? Where did you go and live then?
My grandmother knew that because she had some heart issues, and she was hospitalized a few times, and they had to do some kind of surgeries around her heart. So she knew that it might be an issue after. So we had conversation about what I would like to do if it was the case. I told her that I wanted to go to some of my auntie and uncles who were in Australia. They just migrated maybe a few years before or a year before this happened. So when this happened, my auntie came back because my uncle was still working in Sydney to take us back to Australia. But then she was very attached to her family and she never wanted to leave France. Once she was back to France, she's part of a family of 12 brothers and sisters. And so she's very attached to her family. And so, yeah, she just wanted to stay in France. And so my uncle came back and we kept living in France. Yeah.
So that sort of, it always feels like this sort of stop start, this opportunity to get to this fictional thing called Australia.
I know.
And so you and your brother then lived out the rest of your childhood with that aunt then?
Yes,
Did you?
and uncle. And I had 2 children. So they were my cousin, but they became like my brother. And then they had a third baby, a child as well, while we were living with them. So we were 5 children. Yeah.
And were you close to that aunt and uncle?
Uh, Not so close, but I was seeing them sometimes. Yeah.
You just kind of had to make
Yeah.
do. So how was it then that you left school and you went to do a degree in ornamental wood carving?
Yeah. I know. So it was not a degree. That was something that I could do. And that was something that in my mind was difficult. And that was sort of because I was doing art as well. My year 12 was like in the arts. And I always loved history of art and painting and drawing. And my mom was also actually, she did a lot of things in art as well before she had me. And when she had me, she went into kind of a coma. And then they found out that, yeah, she was just not well. But, that's from when I was born. So, but before that, yeah, she painted. And she kept painting while she was at the uh, mental health institute as well. She did a lot of exhibitions. Yeah.
Did you have much contact with her during those years, or did you know about her
Yeah, I know
career?
about her. I guess I I remember one time I might have maybe I was like 6, 7. They said, "Oh, your dad is coming," and I thought in my mind, "Oh, I have a dad. Oh, that's good." And so yeah, they came. But yeah, that was nice to see them. I had a brand new bike, I remember. But my mom, it was sort of a little bit difficult to have a conversation. The last time I saw her, actually, I went back to France and I had my son. And so I visited her at the mental health uh, institute with my son because I wanted her to meet him. And yeah, she was not very well. I didn't know what to give her as a present. And I asked my dad, what can I give her? And I wanted to give her painting, but he said no because she would eat the paint. So to not give her this, but to give her pencils, a color pencil, so she would be able to just use them. So that's what I did. But I was feeling bad about just give her pencils because it was like a euro or €2 the set. I felt like there was such a small present for a special occasion. So I remember I went and bought some beautiful roses in a pot, and I thought she can keep that in her room. But while I was talking to my dad and some doctors, I just turned around and she was actually eating the roses from the. But I thought, oh, maybe she wants to eat them because she's not thinking in the same way that as we think. But she might feel that she wants to take it in. Maybe, yeah.
Mm. Did your mother and father stay married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad looked after her all the time. Like they were the example of people really in love. That was, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. You're on Big Little Small Talk. You're listening to Big Little Small Talk. We've got Maud Bagnall, who is a French lady originally, now an Australian citizen. We know that, who lives here in Toowoomba and does all this incredible work, volunteer and paid work. We're talking about how you went to university to study wood carving. I want to get back onto that because there's so much. Part of that, I gather, is your degree was reproduction of classical subject figures and life drawing and water gliding. Oh,
What of lighting?
water gliding. I don't know. I
I don't
must
know
have
what
read
is
that
that.
on your LinkedIn profile or something.
What of lighting? No, I don't
No,
know.
maybe we that was the wrong translation.
Don't know.
Not water gliding. So tell me about what you went to study
All
and
right.
why. Or do you think that that was just an instinctive thing that you loved art so much, really through your genetics, or was that the environment that you're growing up in, or someone influencing you at school, or?
Well, I I just knew, and I just paint and I just draw. That's comes to me very easy in a way. So I explore all the drawing and painting and everything for many years. I enjoyed it, and I went and studied history of art and everything, which I enjoyed as well. But I guess I really enjoy also drawing trees for some reason. I just enjoy it. But I thought if I could find a way to create something that is not just on a paper, that is more lasting, and to use some natural fibers, and I thought wood carving, it looks so difficult because you cannot glue back your piece of wood, or you really need to be careful with what you do, and you have to take your piece of wood and then make it work whatever you want to do. It has to work with the shape of what's inside the wood as well. And I don't know, the thought of being able to do that and to have like this, you use this natural piece of wood and make it, you know, whatever you want to do, a piece of art that is not just on a paper or just. I just wanted to try, and because it was difficult, I thought it was going to be difficult. I just wanted to be able to do it. And so I learned it, I was able to do it, and I was so happy with that. And so I started to carve a lot, and I also learned, I guess, this gesture of people who have been doing those special ornamental piece of art. And I then also did a marqueterie. So it's a lot of a small piece of wood put together that you put together, and it's like making a drawing, a painting, only made of a piece of wood. It's called marqueterie. Not everybody knows about it. You can find them on a lot of furniture. So I did that too, and I really enjoyed this one as well. And I ended up after that doing restoration and conservation of furniture.
Tell me about the 17th century
Yes,
Mazarin clock.
Mazarin clock. So because I was doing this marqueterie, so I just thought, let's do something else with what I know now. And I just wanted to know a bit more because of studying art and everything. I thought that would be great to know a bit more about the history of furniture as well, because it's sort of an important part of our history and national furnitures as well. So I just started to do this as well, and ended up being very interested into the conservation of those Mazarin clock, which made of a mix of turtle shell, ebony, and copper. So those three elements are very interesting because they are three very different elements. The turtle shell breaks very easy. The ebony is a very strong wood, and the copper is a special material that has a memory as well as how you um, use it, want to flatten it or want to curve it. So they have different properties, but they are brought together to create as an ornament for those Mazarin clocks. And it looks pretty like beautiful. The turtle shell has a very nice depthness about it. So they put some red paper behind, but when you look at the turtle shell, there's a kind of a very beautiful depthness about it.
Right, yeah.
And then the very black wood, which is the ebony, and the golden color of the copper. So the thing is that you have to, when you want to restore such a small furniture, you have to be very careful to not squash your furniture. So it's sort of very fiddly, but so you have to really think through about how you are going to do it and who you are doing it for. So is it going to be a conservation of something that you want to preserve the history for the museum, or is it a restoration of the furniture, which is going to be a furniture that you will sell a bit more, or will look maybe a bit more beautiful than what it was before, more shiny or something. But I was interested to make it to do a conservation so that the next person who will maybe restore the furniture will see what material you used or not, and is able to read your furniture, and so will not think, oh, okay, so in the 17th century they were using this type of ebony. So it even if it was not the case. So you don't want to, if you change something or add something that was not there before, you have to like tell the next person that this piece was created in the 20th century.
How do you tell that person?
Well, so
That-
for me, I put it some mold. I created some mold because some pieces were missing um, of the, I don't know how do you call that in English, but um, so some pieces were missing. It was made of ebony, like larger pieces that was not part of the marqueterie. So for that, I did some mold and I just used some resin and recreated some new one, but I didn't use, for example, pear wood, which was used before, and tinted them in black. Or I didn't use ebony or anything to make it, as a kind of a more
Imitation.
imitation
Right.
and more expensive type of furniture. No, I used something else. So because I didn't want to use this pear wood that they had,
Right.
because I didn't want them to think, oh, they were using this type of pear wood, or
Right. So anybody sort of in future can see that you're not trying to imitate it.
Yeah.
You're using something completely
Yeah.
different. When we're talking about Mazarin clocks,
Mm.
what sort of size are they? Like grandfather clocks or
Oh, they are like about
about 50 centimeters or something?
a bit bigger, 50 centimeters.
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah.
That's a niche market, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you finished your studies. Was it around 1996, somewhere around there? And then you started working as a graphic designer. What happened?
So now I'm graphic designer. When I arrived in Australia, so I did do conservation of furniture. I was also a tour guide for special exhibitions because I could help whoever with question, especially around special exhibition of furnitures that I really enjoyed. I also created some for those special exhibitions as well. So I tried different methods and things like that in some of the workshop, which I really enjoyed.
The graphic designer. Well,
So
tell me, in part of that, how did you come to Australia?
So that's until the end of me being in Paris. My last years where I was in Paris, I earned, it's called concours. It's like everybody gives a piece of work that they have restored or created or something to this organization that support the work of arts. And so I did gain something through them as well. I was ranked in the fifth, something like that in France. It was great, yeah. But then I had also someone else who was going to retire, who wanted me to take his workshop where he was doing some conservation of clocks. But at the end, I thought it's great, and I achieved again what I wanted to achieve. But I don't think that I want to spend the rest of my life in Paris. There's lots of things like culturally, it's, you are engaged all the time, but you take the metro, you go there, you do what you have to do, then you can study. I was also studying at the Louvre as well, and come back, and then you just never stops. Nothing stops. It's just constant. And then you go out because some of my friends were working in a music industry, so you get these free tickets everywhere, and then you just never stop. And I was feeling that my life was like, you know, just never stopped. And that's where I decided that I don't want that anymore. And yeah, I went back a little bit in the south of France, and then I went to Australia.
Right. So that long held dream of getting here. And where did you come to? And were you going to come here and live, or you thought, we'll come out and see how it goes?
Yeah, oh, I was not going to stay. I just thought, okay, we will see, how we are going. But I didn't keep my flat. I was renting an apartment in Paris. I didn't keep this one. And I left knowing that I would need to find another apartment. And I was not really worried about the job because I knew it was kind of a lot of demand around what I was doing anyway.
I'll always get a job restoring Mazepin clocks when I come back. I'll be right, Ned.
Another
Always
thing,
work. Yeah,
another
yeah,
thing
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
So where did you come to when you first came?
So I arrived in Sydney, and so one of my other uncle went in Australia even before my other uncle and auntie, and he was with a partner. He lived in Sydney in Australia because I went all around as well for 20 years, I think, before he passed away. So he passed away a few years before I came back I arrived in Australia. And so I arrived and I went straight away to his partner's place. So she was living in Sydney at the time. And I stayed with her for a while.
What time of the year was that when you first got to Sydney?
Around, I think it was around May.
And was
Yeah.
it fine? Like, did that Sydney landscape, did it put on its best show with the beautiful sunny weather and the beautiful beaches and the beautiful harbour and the
That was not too cold, not too hot. But I thought that it was colder than what I thought. And I didn't think that actually it could be cold in Australia.
Yeah.
I didn't bring
Okay.
a jacket with me. So I had to go and buy some shawls and everything.
Yeah. Blown away by the beauty of Sydney.
That was, yeah, very beautiful. Yeah.
So Maud, you sort of checked it out for a little while, and then you mentioned before that you had a son, and he's called A.
Odd.
Aud, and it's AODA.
Yes.
Aud.
Yes.
Tell me the circumstances of having Aud. Did you have him in Australia?
Yes. So I went, after staying with my auntie, I went all around Australia because that's really, I wanted to go and see Australia. I wanted to see the big space, those big space and everything. I wanted to experience that because in Paris, this is the opposite. You've got those very small space in a way that you live in, and you are in the metro and everyone is compressed. So I just wanted to feel this space. And so, yeah, I bought a van and I made everything inside. Like, I created the bed that I can fold into a seat. I wanted to do it myself. Not that I could have probably bought something else, but no, I really wanted to do it. And then while I was looking for this van, first, I wanted a van, but I was looking for one, and I was in Sydney looking for a van in a place where they were selling them. Person who was selling the van said, "Oh, you're French, but you have to come with me." So I said, "But where?" And he said, "Oh, but this woman over there, she's French too. You have to talk to her." So, okay, so he said, "No, no, you both need to talk to each other. You're both French." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll talk to her."
Okay, talk to the French lady. Yes, I've just come from France, but okay.
That's fine. So, yes, I talked to her and I told her I was looking for a van, and she said that she was looking for a car. And I asked her what you are there for. She was telling me she wanted to go around Australia. And that afternoon, I had a good conversation about what we wanted to do. And then I think we met the day after. We decided to meet the day after. And I think I even saw her in the evening. And we decided that it would be maybe much better to travel together than travel on our own. And so we decided just, in a few days to buy a car because she wanted a car. So, and just um, go. So I think she must have stayed one evening at my auntie's place before we gathered whatever we needed for the travel. And that's it. So we traveled a little bit with this car, but that was not really what I wanted. So we had it a little bit and then we sold it and we bought a van. And she helped me do all the inside. And we kept traveling. So we traveled a little bit together. And then after a while, she met actually a person who became daughter's dad from England. And so she went with him back to England and I stayed in Australia. I wanted to see a bit more of Australia. So it was not a lot of job that I could do. Yeah.
Got any 17th century Mazarin clockwork here in Gatton? No.
In Mildura?
I'm Mildura, but I can offer you a job picking oranges. Just remind the listeners that you're on Big Little Small Talk. My name's Megan O'Hara Sullivan, and we're talking to Maud Bagnall, who's getting to the part about how she met someone and had out.
Yeah, so I arrived in Mildura. I went to a caravan park there and I looked for a job. And because also, I didn't tell you, but my English was terrible. I really needed to learn a bit more because I thought I could, you know, speak a little, but I really could not understand the accent and yeah, I could say some sentences like the cat is in the garden and, the yellow is the color of the sun. And Camille, with who I traveled, she was doing a degree in something in English. So she was my interpreter for a while because without her, I just could not understand what everyone was talking about. So that helped me as well. But she was gone by then and I had to work by myself. So I started to work picking grapes. Was it grapes? Grapes, yes. And there I was working for a farm and someone was driving the tractors and picking the grapes and this someone, I started to talk to him and see him very often. I had an instance where I was picking my grapes and it was this elderly man next to my row. And I think, yeah, I felt very bad, not very good for him, but he was taking when I was filling the buckets, he was taking some buckets, on the other side. So I just was telling him, don't try not to do it, but it's fine. I can help you and everything. Don't worry. So he actually, he was driving the tractors and everything and was seeing him doing that. So he was telling me, oh, this person is taking your bucket. And I said, well, that's okay. I'm working because also I want to learn English and everything. So we had a conversation through this bucket story. I guess I start to know him and everything. And so then he said, oh, we, for a few months, we talked to each other, we got to know each other. And then he asked me, oh, you want me to come with you? And I want to travel a little bit with you. And I've not seen Australia much and everything. I was thinking, I don't know how this might work. And, like for someone who has not really traveled before and everything. But anyway, we traveled a little bit. We went to see his sister. And his sister was living not too far from Toowoomba. And I remember when I first saw Toowoomba, I thought that was so beautiful. Like such a beautiful city. And I traveled in a lot of other cities, but I never felt like I wanted to stay there. I wanted to visit and everything, but I didn't feel like I wanted to stay there. But I remember when I arrived in Toowoomba, I just told him this is such a beautiful city. And I felt, you have this feeling when you are in some places. I just felt like I wanted to stay here. yeah, it's just bizarre. But the more I stay here and the more I feel that I belong here, you know?
So you had an instant connection. And we're getting to the part where we fell pregnant and had a baby.
Yeah, so we were out here in Toowoomba, and so we found a place to stay. And a few months after, I saw that I was pregnant. I was happy because I was thinking, so good, I'm pregnant and I'm in this beautiful city and I want to stay here, you know? My husband is from Newcastle and wanted to go back. But I was telling him this, why, you know, because this city is so beautiful. Why don't you want to stay there? His sister was there, so he was happy to stay there, at least for a while. We ended up just staying here. I had my son, and it took a long time to find his name.
A lovely name. It's a Gaelic name, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yes,
Gaelic
yeah,
name. Yeah.
yeah. And then a few years later, Maud, what happened with your husband?
So he also had to take. So I didn't know that when I met him, and you will think that is very odd, but he also had schizophrenia. So I know, and I met him, but he like was in charge of the farm, and he was doing like very well, and but then, you know, a few months after, he said, "Oh, you know, just need to tell you something. I've got schizophrenia." And I was thinking, I could not believe that because of my mom, you know. I was thinking, no, you do not have schizophrenia because, you know, my mom has schizophrenia. But he was just able to take his medication and he was just able to deal with it, I guess. And so, but sometimes, so after a while, the issue was that, yes, he was taking his medications, but his medication had side effects. You know, he was gaining more weight. That was the issue, really. So, to not gain so much weight, he sometimes had to stop his medication. Or we didn't know, you know, at the time. Now I work for Cares Queensland for NDIS. I'm thinking, oh, there's so much more thought that are going through, you know, or you are supported, you know, if you have a disability. Or but at the time, for our solution was for him to stop the medication and go to his parents because I could not. Like, it was a bit scary to have a baby and I have someone who didn't have his medication, and he knew that. So he stopped his medication, but when he stopped it, that time he was not well, and he gained a lot of weight, like a lot of weight, too much weight, and I think his heart could not take it, you know. So he went to his parents for that, but also because his mom was not well, and so he wanted to be with her, which is normal. But yeah, I remember we were talking a lot in the evening, so we were talking. And that evening we talked and talked and talked. And then, you know, it was one of those times where you say good night and he says good night, and you say good night and he says good night, and see you, good night. And it was very long, you know, it took a long time to say good night or, you know, see you, talk to you soon. And then next thing in the morning, it was like 7 o'clock. I get a phone call from his sister telling me Arthur died. And so for a while, I could not even tell people the story because, but so yeah, so that's what happened.
How old was Aud at the stage?
He was 4.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Maud, were you just totally confused and frightened? You're in a strange country. You've got a baby.
Yeah. He was 4.5 by then. Yeah.
How did you think about going back to France?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And
I actually did.
you did go back? And how long did you stay?
I stayed 4 months, I think. And I went back in the south. But I just didn't really want to discuss it. I didn't want to, I don't know. I felt like I didn't want to be around people who would say, "Oh, you know, we can help you," and I didn't want that. I wanted to, and that's where actually realized that I missed being here in Toowoomba. I missed the community because by then I started to volunteer, and I was helping some families coming from different, like especially from Africa, because I could speak French. And so I had started to have those connections in Toowoomba. And that's why I realized that no, I just need to come back to Toowoomba. And that's where I should be. And so that's what I did. I came back to Toowoomba.
Now, I just want to talk to you about you say you volunteer. I'm not going to hear all about your incredible work that you do, but you did last year win the Australia Day Cultural Award, the 2025 Cultural Award, and you won the 2023 Queensland Volunteering Award. And all of the work that you do with the International Street Fiesta and all of the other work that you do here. But I think the most amazing thing that you have done in the last 18 months, 2 years, is have another baby.
I know.
How old were you, Maud, when you had Nina?
I was 47.
47.
And the thing is that my son always dreamed, like it was his dream to have a brother or a sister. He was telling me, Mom, I need, I want a baby to cuddle, or, you know, I just need to have a brother or a sister. And in my mind, I thought I can't. But he was much younger when he was saying that. And he still, he would have always liked to have a brother or a sister. So I didn't think that actually at my age that could be possible, because you read the internet and there's everything. Because as soon as I saw that I was pregnant, I started to, Google everything, and I was thinking that, is that possible? Is that good? Can I have like a normal baby? Like I Googled all these things and I got all these really bad stories. And I thought, oh, and I would be too tired, and can I really have a baby? Like, is my body able to do that? I had all these questions, and then even the doctors, I remember telling the doctor, and she tells me, but I don't have any clients who had a baby at your age, and then I go to see the specialist and I talk to them and they say the same, and I'm just thinking, surely,
I'm not the oldest person in the world to have had a baby.
but they were all really unsure and wanted me to do all these tests and extra tests just in case. And so I did everything, but everything came back good. But when they give you the blood test and everything, they always add to it. I don't understand why. The level of risk that you have is added to the actual result. So you don't really know if everything is fine because you got your test with the risk. So I was constantly worried.
Was there ever a thought that you wouldn't go ahead with the pregnancy?
Yeah, sometime I thought, because like I received one test and it was clearly written that I had one chance out of 6 from this blood test to have a child with Down syndrome, for example. So my partner has an uncle who has Down syndrome, and he had those conversations with his auntie, and no, yeah, with his auntie who were telling him that yes, she thought that his mom would not have done that if she had to do it again. But I, as I have thought I can't do that. But anyway, there was a lot of thought going through my mind, but then
Nina was
I,
born, and
but then
she's the most
yes,
delightful.
and then I remember when I had my son, I was always tired, and I was like, that felt very difficult. And I thought that was going to be worse with Nina, but no, it's the opposite. It's everything is so much more simple. I'm not tired. She's very easy. She's very happy.
And she was named after
Nina Simone.
who is a feminist icon, yeah, and singer.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, unfortunately, I have run out of time with you, Maud. I always say I'll have to come back for your Maud type version 2. I always end my interviews with 2 questions. One, do you have a favorite royal? Doesn't necessarily have to be English and or living.
Mm. So I would say is the royal family that lives in Bhutan.
Oh, the Bhutan royal family.
Yes,
Right up in the mountains.
yes.
Why?
Because I think that instead of, so I actually read your question and I thought, because I actually, instead of using the currency, they use the gross national happiness as a, to check how, to gauge, how their country is going. And it's one of the country where people are the most happy. So they use this instead of checking the level of economic growth.
Interesting.
I know.
And they're right up there, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel that, this family has been caring for their people in that way. So I think it's a great example of how good you can be, because I got their role that they might not have chosen, but they chose to use this as, are we doing our job well or not?
That's right. The indicator. I love that. Never had the Bhutan royal family. I'll have to go down that rabbit hole of investigating them now. And what about, Maud, the song that can't keep you off the dance floor? You might be doing a little bit of Bluey and sort of Wiggles at the moment.
Well, I always liked Bella Ciao. And so in the south of France, we have this music group called Les Motivés, and they sing one of those kind of revolutionary song, and it's called Bella Ciao.
Bella Ciao.
And yeah, it's sort of a song that we always.
Is it a revolutionary song, like sort of, rise up, go against the government? Is that what you mean by
No,
revolutionary?
it's like, it's a very old song, but it's still used by different music groups, and it's sort of very, you want to dance when you hear it.
Is it a bit sort of like a football song, like motivational sort of that? No, I can see from your face. It's not like a football song at all.
It's not like that. Well, you just have to
Oh,
listen
we'll have to
it,
find it.
and
yes.
you'll
If we can't find Bella
Ciao.
we will find something by Nina Simone.
By Nina Simone.
Lovely. And I didn't get to hear about all your dedication to fostering connections and social cohesion and diversity and inclusion. But Maud, it's been such a pleasure to have you on Big Little Small Talk. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me on Big Little Small Talk. I hope you can make the time to join me next week. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favourite podcast app.
You've been listening to a 102.7 FM Toowoomba original podcast. For more podcasts or to listen to live and local Toowoomba radio, please visit 1027.com.au or download the Community Radio Plus app.